So, let's start. Welcome to my presentation about the MBS Xojo Plugins. So, in the last years, since 2001, that's 25 years, we got 52 plugins, and 49 are in the complete package, and then we have SQL, DynaPDF, and chart director separate. We have over 400 internal plugin parts. So each plugin contains several segments, and they provide individual functionality. I'm constantly adding things, removing things. Some things get deprecated and removed. Other things get added. Currently, we have 83,000 items in the documentation. It may take a while to read them. That's over 3,000 classes and 2,000 example projects. So it may take you some time of your vacation if you would like to try them. But a lot of examples help people to see how functions get used, and they often can do copy and paste to put something into their projects. Then I have the job to keep up with what Xojo changes. Like from time to time, they update their HTML viewer engine on Windows, so I have to update my plugin to match. I have to add the new targets as they are coming, like Windows for ARM or Linux for ARM. There are changes to delegates, and recently was add row got a new feature to return you the row ID. And so I keep adding stuff to the plugin. Also, there was a new datetime class, which I had to support everywhere we had date. So a lot of functions are now overloaded and can do both. So, and you get now a summary of changes since the last conference. I did 12 releases. You may know I do a release every 2 months to push the things out because, well, people don't really try it while it's in beta, but as soon as I think it's good, I push it out to you. Then you can give me your feedback, and then maybe a release later, we have the bugs fixed, and you can use it in production. And I have videos from the last 2 conferences on the website, so you can see what was new back then. And let's come to the first big topic we have in Germany, electronic invoices. I'm not sure about your country, but in Germany we have Zugpferd, and it's mandatory from the next year on for all businesses to be able to send invoices as electronic invoices, which is basically a PDF file with an embedded XML, or optionally also just the XML. There's also the X-Rechnung standard, another XML standard for invoices to the government. And in France, the Zugpferd standard is the same, but it's named Facture X. So with DynaPDF, we are providing you the tools to do the XML embedding in the PDF, as well as getting the XML back. You can have example files for this if you want. And with our Saxon classes, you can also do XML transformations to display the invoice or to validate it. The whole thing with electronic invoices has, of course, the reason to automate as much as possible. Like you are sending a request for an offer to a company. You can then match the offer with your request, see what prices they use, see if you like it. Then you can send your purchase order to match the offer. You get back the invoice. If the invoice matches the offer, someone already clicked that they received the goods and they're okay, then the payment can go automatically and nobody needs to touch the invoice at all. So we have a lot of things for PDF. This year we got DynaPDF 5. It has a couple of new features over the time. Like you can get the information about the encryption status of a PDF with a lot of details. Then we have the checksums for embedded files, which is important because when we embed an XML for an invoice, we want to validate that the checksum is correct and the invoice wasn't changed, at least without us noticing, like a copy error. Then we have support for complex and bidirectional text rendering on Windows. That's built into Windows with the AniScribe library, and we can use that in DynaPDF. There's also in the works the same for macOS, because Apple has with Cortex a similar technology. It allows us to substitute missing characters from different fonts. So you no longer get this warning that the text you want to write isn't supported by the current font. Also, it helps you with bidirectional text rendering. For example, if you like to write text in Hebrew or Arabic. So that helps a lot for these people. Then we also got a class to render PDF pages in the background in batches. So your application continues to run, and you tell it to render all the pages in a maybe 800 pages PDF, and then you get events whenever one of the pages is finished. And so you can use several CPU cores, and your application can do the main thread thing where you maybe take the pictures and you show them, or you process them for whatever you need them. It's great for making a PDF viewer. Then we got the DynaPDF parser. The parser has been there for 20 years, but now we have a class to actually access it and use it in Xojo. It's great to find text in a PDF because you get all the drawing commands and all the positions, and we can really show you a page and draw a rectangle around each text so you know exactly where the text is rendered. You can do a search and replace. Like a lot of people love to have the customer provide a template PDF and then just replace text there. You can also extract, of course, the text and list images in the file. And we recently got the content classes, so you can really go over all the drawing commands in the PDF page, get an object for every drawing command with all the parameters. You can remove individual items or modify the commands. So for example, change a color or remove a line if you want. Then there is Saxon as a commercial XML library from Saxonica. And it allows you to do much more XML manipulation. Built into Xojo is XLST1 transformation in the XML document class. But you may use Saxon to get XLST3 for your transformations, XQuery with 3.1, the XML schema validation with version 1, and XPath queries to navigate your documents. And if you want to do anything advanced in XML, you certainly want this library, because you can do all kinds of XML transformations. You can write whole applications within your XQuery document and your XML transformation to do a lot of things. But it's a separate license. So I buy this big redistribution license, and then I hope to find a few people to buy a Saxon license for me. So yeah, we can share the cost. And it's really great for a couple of things. For example, this is an XML transformation to take an electronic invoice as an XML and transform it into a HTML file which we can display. So we don't need to learn all the details, and we have a ready-to-use transformation tool to show us the invoices. And also, the Saxon label can be used to validate the invoices. So we can not just check against the XML schema to see if all the nodes are correct. We can also apply a transformation to go over the business rules to decide for every little option if it's the right value. Like it will validate that, for example, the VAT IDs start with the right letter combinations, have the right lengths. They will check whether certain fields exist, or if a field shouldn't exist, if another field has a certain value. So all these business rules are checked, and you can be sure that your invoice is valid. That's important here in Germany because you get an invoice, you pay the invoice, and then you keep it for the bookkeeping. And maybe 5 years later, a tax audit will happen. And then they will say, you should never have accepted this invoice. So you are not allowed to reclaim the VAT or reclaim it as an expense. So you may be disappointed. So always validate the invoices you get. Then we have libxl. It's a powerful library for handling Excel documents. And we have Dimitro here, who is the developer behind it. If you have any questions, please ask him. I made a plugin around it, and in the last year we got conditional formatting for Excel documents. We have a class for document properties, so you can work on the metadata of your Excel document. There is an add table function to add a table, and the table class to work on tables within your sheet on your Excel work document. You can also now read encrypted files. And I think this is a very welcome addition because a lot of companies have Excel documents and need to read them into their databases or into their document management system, and you may write that in Xojo. Then we have a couple of changes for iOS. The first notable thing is that we now require iOS 15. I'm always trying to keep the requirement as low as possible, but recently an Xcode upgrade forced me to require 15, which is okay, I think, because I think you can go down to iPhone 6s, and I think nobody's still using that. So we have support for handoff with the NS User Activity class. So you can have an application on iOS and an application on macOS. The user can use the application on one device, and you can put the state in your user activity, and then they can go to the other device, open your app, and it knows exactly where you are because it gets a copy of this user activity object transferred, and you can continue wherever you like, where you were. So, for example, you may know that if you go and on your iPad, for example, and you go on a website, and then you go to your Mac, you find this little icon in the dock with Safari, where you can click on to go to the same website on your Mac. And you can have the same thing with your Xojo app, with the little icon in the dock. Then we got a class for the no playing information screen on iOS. So your application can tell iOS what you're doing, and it will show the playing video, audio, or whatever you do on the lock screen, so the user can then use the pause button or forward rewind, and your application gets a notification for that. Then we also have sending of emails with a standard system dialog. So you can use our plugin to pop up this dialog. The user can then type in a message and send whatever content you like by email using the built-in mail application. You can, of course, provide attachments, text, subject lines, if you like. And we have the same for sending text messages or iMessage, where you can provide the text and the image, and the user can then just put in the recipient and then send the message. There have also been people asking for printing on iOS. So you can have the standard printer dialog show up and decide to print something, of course. You can pick a printer nearby, so you can just install it from within your application. You can also print without a dialog, which is great for a point of sales application to just print out a receipt. You have a couple of options, like duplex, or whether you want to print in color or black and white, or which paper to use. Then we have a couple of changes related to our curl plugin. Curl is a library excellent for up and download of files with FTP, SFTP, HTTP. Also, you can use it for sending and receiving emails. And there, the big change was secure transport is removed. That used to be the SSL library from Apple, but now we can use OpenSSL on all platforms for the encryption, and it works just fine. We still have the option on Windows to use the built-in Windows SSL feature for Microsoft. On Mac and Windows, we now automatically use the root certificates installed on the machine. So we can validate all the SSL connections with the built-in certificates. And if you install a certificate in your company on all the machines, we would automatically find it. Then there have been improvements for the MQTT support, especially for getting encrypted connections available, and you use MQTT for home automation. So you may write a Xojo app to control your heating or your lights. Then there have been a couple of upgrades for OpenSSL 3.5. We have to update the libraries regularly because security standards change, and you can't expect a 5-year-old library to still make connections. TLS in the older version is deprecated and will be removed soon. The version 1.2 has been out for over 10 years, and nobody should still use the old ones because they have been compromised. Also for SFTP, there has been an update for the libSSH with newer encryption support. So if you want to connect to an SFTP server, you have to have a recent plugin because otherwise the encryption will fail. Every talk has to some way have AI in it. So let me just tell you, I have an example for using ChatGPT API with a plugin using our curl functions. Then we have support for MongoDB. This is a great database server thing which you can run on several servers around the globe, and then you can have a cluster of servers, and the plugin can connect to such a cluster, picks the nearest server available. If one server disappears, we can connect to a different one automatically. They sync between each other, so you can have a lot of servers around the globe, and you can get a fast data access to your databases. And we can, of course, read and write data. We can run custom commands now, much better because the standard may define additional commands that we don't have a convenience function for, so you can send the raw request. We have trace logging, so you can log all the calls, everything going in and out, and you may use that to debug your problems if you have any connectivity problems. You can store files in your MongoDB with the gridfs classes. It will make chunks of old files and put them in a table, and then you can retrieve them later or list the files in the databases. Great for storing things like thumbnail pictures or user content. And we got a class for all the SSL options because people like to customize that with private certificates. So you can not just use username and password, but you can use a certificate to log in to make sure that's really you and nobody can just fake a password. Then we have support for fidgets. That's a Canadian company that makes little devices with USB or Bluetooth, and they offer a couple of sensors like temperature, light, weather things. They have buttons, motors, just input-output connectivity, RFID readers, and much more. And you can connect to them with our plugin. And we recently added newer devices, like here a motor velocity controller, so you can control a motor. And we have outputs for current. We also have digital outputs, analog outputs, inputs. We got LED arrays, so you can have a long cable with LEDs, and you can run animations on it and turn it on and off. So if you need to run a party, you can control that with your Xojo app. And in general, we added a lot of more events and properties over time because this library gets bigger and supports more things. So I added them because I have a couple of users actually running a lot of fidgets. Then I have the scintilla control in the plugin. It's an advanced text editor for your desktop projects, which allows you to build, for example, an editor for your Xojo scripts. So you can actually edit Xojo code in Xojo applications. And you get syntax highlighting, auto-completion, foldable areas, all the nice things you like to have in an advanced text editor. It was recently updated for the latest macOS version by updating the library. We got a few new tricks like saving the content not just as plain text but as HTML, so you can keep the formatting and export it to HTML, which may be useful if you like to save something for your blog post. And we got a lot of new properties. One of them, which was missing for some reason, was the vertical scroll position, but it's now there. Then we have Python. Python support. Python is a powerful open source programming language. A lot of people like to integrate their Python code with Xojo. So we have a Python MBS class. It allows you to run scripts, Python scripts within your application. So they run in the same process. You can also evaluate expressions. And because it's the same process, you can directly read and write the global variables in Python and transfer data within the application. And that may be faster than running them externally with the shell class. You can also call back from Python to your Xojo code by defining custom functions for Python. And you can set the system path, so you can have several Python installation and tell us where your system path is, so we know where we find your Python extensions. So you can use all the Python AI extensions if you want. Then I do have things for Windows. We got a class to watch for devices being connected or disconnected, which is quite useful to know that something is coming. Then we have the class with the device information, so you actually know what connected. We have a custom pairing class because we have a couple of Bluetooth classes for Windows, and you may need to do a pairing of a new Bluetooth device. Then we have the Windows Management Interface classes to run queries against the Windows Management Interface to find things about the hardware or the installed software on your machine. Like this is great to look up what hard disks are installed, what are the BIOS settings, what are the network cards installed, and you can query all the device tree with these functions. Then we have support for the WebView 2 control for Microsoft. It's a HTML viewer based on Microsoft's Edge engine, which itself is based on Chromium. And the big advantage is that with the plugin, we use the engine included with the operation system. If you use the HTML viewer in Xojo with the Edge engine, you get a copy of the Chromium libraries embedded in your application, which makes it a bit bigger. But with WebView 2, we have a direct way to have the WebView control on the layout. And we have a couple of events and methods, so you can control a lot of things. Recently, we added browser extension support. So you can load a custom browser extension that you may ship with your application. So this browser extension is active in your HTML viewer. There are also functions to mute audio, which may be convenient if you don't want to blast music in your office. We also added support for basic authentication. If you have to provide a login, you get an event, and then you can provide the password to try. And we have functions for the favorite icon of the website, so you can actually show that in case you like to show it on the user interface or when you save a bookmark. Then we have UI automation. That's a set of new classes I'm adding for the next version of the plugin. 60 new classes to control the user interface on Windows automatically. You can list all the open windows on the machine, inspect each window for the controls inside the window. You can read things from the controls. You can invoke controls. You can scroll an area. You can put in text, read text. And it's a great way if you need to do some UI scripting, for example, for automated test of your user interface, or to just control another application which you can't automate otherwise. We have a couple of events when things happening, like you can get an event when the focus changes of the user, if a text field changes, if some list got scrolled, or other things. So you find a lot of classes for events. Then I have the tidy library. The tidy library allows you to parse XML or HTML, clean it up, and it can also be used if you need some custom parsing, like you can get all the tidy nodes to go through the document in all the nodes, make modifications, and then output the document again. And here's just a simple example where we format some XML in a new function which just takes the existing XML or HTML and then outputs the formatted one. Then we have Macos-specific classes. For example, there is a Darwin host VM statistics class, which provides you information about the memory statistics of your Mac or iOS device, like how much memory is available as free, how much is active, inactive, and you can react to this. Then we have the status item class to show a little icon on the top right of your menu bar with a menu, and you can do that with Xojo, and we get recently some events there, like whether the user moved your item in the menu bar or whether it was hidden because the menu bar was too crowded. Then we have improvements to the toolbar with newer controls. For example, there is now a real search item available, and we have a search item class for this, so you can have a real search box on your toolbar. Then I have a CA display link, which is a special timer class to allow you to make your animations or your drawings while the screen is not refreshing. So the screen refreshes every 60 times a second, and then between the refreshes there's a short amount of time where you can do something for your animations. Then I got classes for sign in with Apple, where your user can use their Apple ID to sign into the application, and you get a token for this, and you can validate the token later, so you know they are signed in and they are still valid, and you don't need to manage your own user accounts. And then we have asynchronous file I/O with the dispatch I/O class on Mac and iOS, which allows you to asynchronously read and write files. Like you can send a request to read a certain file and then later get an event when it's done. Then we got the class for the detection of documents on a photo. So you can have a picture taken of a paper document, and then you can rectify it, and you can remove the in this case, the wooden table around the document, and put that into your application. And since Apple has an image playground, we got a class to use that in your application. This was the first time I got Swift code added to one of my plugins. A lot of work to get something to run, but it works, and you can generate images. Just provide a few keywords, and your Mac with Apple Silicon will run its neural processing unit to make you a picture. Then we also have the writing tools. Apple provides writing tools with recent macOS updates. And you can show the panel for the user to work on the text areas they have. And you can decide what's allowed. Like, do you like the user to edit style text in the tables or so? You can define a little bit what the panel should offer. So users can enjoy these writing tools that they see in every other application, you know. Then we also have translation frameworks from Apple, which we can use in your macOS or iOS application for doing on-device local translation in something like 20 languages currently. But Apple is adding newer languages with every update, every few months. It's available on macOS 15 or higher, as well as iOS 18 and higher. The actual API is added for version 26, but then I discovered that it was there the year before, but just not public, but still works. Then I have also another Swift thing, StoreKit 2. It's a newer API for running the Mac and iOS App Store. So you can use that in Xojo applications to make your in-app purchases. You can show the standard dialogues for making a purchase or for managing subscriptions. You can trigger a purchase of an item. You can query the list of products. You can show them to the user. They can pick something. You can start a purchase. You get an event when the purchase is done. Or when your application launches, you can check for previous purchases and unlock features based on these. You can even have your application receive live updates, like events, when the user buys something on a different device. So you can then unlock whatever is purchased. There's also a possibility to show a window to request a review. And we got the possibility to start a refund. So if you decide the user should get their money back, you can initiate that from within your application. Then we have a lot of things for barcodes. Reading and writing barcodes. So the Thing barcode MBS module is available for barcode detection. With Thing, that's an open source library. There's an older version where I have a set of classes, and then there's a newer version where I added a new module because it's completely changed. So I keep the old classes in case you use them, but they're not changing anymore. The newer newer model here is the future, and it does much better detection than the old classes ever did. And it supports 18 different types of barcodes, you know, QR code, EIN, UPC, and data matrix, and many more. It can also do several barcodes in one picture. So you can actually take a picture of a box, and it has maybe 5, 6 barcodes of different types, and it will recognize them all. I was very impressed with it. Then you may know that people in Switzerland, when they get an invoice, there is a QR code on it for making a payment. We have here in Germany, we use the European standard for these barcodes. The Swiss have their own standard, of course. And we have, of course, examples and classes to make these barcodes. But in Switzerland, there's not just that you can just put any Unicode character inside. You actually have to keep to a strict set of characters. So I got this nice filter functions for my Swiss customers, which takes whatever characters they have and then just outputs the one allowed. And we have a few substitution rules. So if you put in a letter with an accent which is not accepted, we will remove the accent. And we can now do QR codes with sequences. Several barcode types support that. That means there is a little metadata in the barcode that says it's from a series of barcodes, and this is the barcode number 1, 2, or 3. So when you make your invoice for medical things in Switzerland, you're supposed to include an XML. The XML is compressed with zlib. They also have newer zlib functions for that. And then it's encoded as base64. And then it's split over several QR codes depending on how much XML you have. And poor people in Switzerland then have to scan all these barcodes to transfer this XML into the reading application. But it's possible to do with the plugin now in Xojo. And once one government figures out how to do this, others will follow. So then we have atomic operations, a couple of atomic classes to help you with thread-safe code. We have an atomic integer, which, well, you can just increment, for example, and you can increment it at the same time on different threads, and it will still have the correct value. We have an example code which does increments with a normal integer and increments with an atomic integer, and you will see a difference. Because with a normal integer, the CPU cache doesn't synchronize quick enough, so they overwrite each other. We also have a queue. If you need an atomic queue for example, a job queue, where you throw in job objects, and then on the other end you pick the job objects. That's fantastic to coordinate work with several worker threads to distribute jobs. And we have the Boolean flag to make sure that the flag is only set or cleared once by one of the threads and not by all. Excellent for synchronization, especially with the addition of preemptive threads in Xojo. That's very helpful. And then we have support for the Llama CPP classes. So there's an open source library to run local language models on your computer locally. So no subscription. You can load the Llama libraries. You can download them on the website. They're pre-built libraries for Mac, Windows, and Linux. Also on things like on Mac, you can use Homebrew as a package manager to install it. Or on Linux, you can, of course, use your favorite package manager to install it. Then you can load a model file. There are thousands of models available for free to download with a lot of parameters. Like I've seen models with 20 billion parameters, and you can just download them and ask them your questions. It's very helpful if you need to process something locally, like to summarize a text or to analyze a text to see what are the main points, or ask the LM whatever you like. For macOS, Windows, and Linux. And it's good for translation, of course. So you can use it in Xojo locally on your machine. On Mac, it's excellent on Mac because of the unified memory. We can load models as big as your memory, so you can have a Mac with 128 gigabytes of RAM, and you can load a 100 gigabyte big model just fine. This won't work on PCs, of course, because hardly any graphics card has as much memory. Then you may know I have a SQL plugin for many years. And there we have a built-in SQLite library, which not just features encryption, like the built-in one in Xojo, but it also has a couple of extensions, for example, for CSV, UUID, and base64. So within the commands of the SQL engine, you can point it to a CSV file and use it like a table. Or you can output stuff as CSV. And there is the possibility to generate UUIDs on the fly in your SQL statements. Like you could have a definition of a table where a field gets a new UID whenever you create the record automatically. And base64 allows you to do commands where you send in a blob and get it encoded as base64 text, or the other way around, so you can do that automatically in your queries. We also have a function to dump the whole database as text, so you can get all the SQL commands needed to make your SQLite database again. This is great if you need to transfer something from a SQLite database into, for example, PostgreSQL. We can just dump it from SQLite and then run the SQL commands in a different database. We got integration for the Unicode libraries. So it's just a thing you can turn on, and then we load the Unicode libraries on Mac, Windows, or Linux, or iOS, and then use them for the Unicode support. So your like search can find umlauts in Germany. Then I added everywhere the support for the add-row method in the Xojo database class with returning the new ID of the new record. And if you look on the release notes, I did a couple of more changes to the SQL plugin over time. Then people love to calculate with big numbers. Really big numbers. A 64-bit integer is not enough. We recently added 128-bit integers. So, but that may be not enough. So we also got large number, which is a 1200-bit integer. Yeah, but if you really need to find big prime numbers, you need something like this. Then we have a floating point number with 320-bit, which is a bit more than the standard 64-bit. But then I had customers complain, that's not enough. So I made a bigger number class. 2,500 bits. Yeah, so some people have to make really large number calculations, and it's not necessarily that the numbers involved or the result are that big, but if you need to calculate the power of some number, your intermediate values get really big. Okay, so then we have a couple of smaller improvements which didn't get their own slides, but for example, UUID 7. That's a newer UUID standard which uses the current time for parts of the UUID, so you can sort the UUID by time. This is excellent if you use them as primary keys for databases, because you can sort them by the time they were created, and you can calculate back the time from the UUID. So you not just have a unique identifier to identify your row, you also have the creation time of the record encoded in the UUID. And of course, UUIDs are excellent if you create things in different databases on different computers and later need to sync them. Like with MongoDB, we use UUIDs everywhere. Then I have a module for YMP project. That's an open source class which provides code for this little interface on the Raspberry Pi to control various hardware things. So if you need to turn on individual pins, this is the class, the module to use. Then we got a helper function to find you the serial number for an USB key based on the folder item. So you could do that before. You would have to look up this path belongs to this disk belongs to this USB device, and this USB device has the serial number. I made a little convenience function for Mac and Windows to find this information, because some people like to identify the USB sticks used to store files. Then we have support for Tune. Tune is a variant of JSON, but optimized for LLMs by using less brackets, less quotes to make it a compactor style. So if you need to pass data to your LLM, you may save a lot of tokens by passing it in Tune format. Then we're always thinking about what to do next. I still have on the list to do something about newer HTTP standards. HTTP 1 is kind of old, and a lot of people now prefer to use HTTP 2 and 3, so I may do that soon. And also there is a newer standard instead of using here TCP/IP. to do Quick, which is a different protocol. And a lot of newer services, newer browsers all use the newer standards. So eventually, we also have to do that. Then there's always questions about more platform-specific classes. Like you may browse Microsoft's documentation, Apple's documentation, spot a certain thing, and then you may send me an email and say, oh, I could use that in Xojo, and I may add that. That maybe Android someday have to ask about the status of a plugin SDK for that, or maybe someone, it's sad that Martin isn't here, he makes a great Android library. And there's the question if I can integrate more Swift code. Like Apple is nowadays providing more and more frameworks in the Swift language instead of Objective-C or C++. So my work on integration will continue to add more Swift things. And we will see in June what they have on their plate. And of course, your wishes, because for the last 25 years, I have mostly made what you told me. So people had wishes, we had projects, we needed something, so we added plugin for this. Then there's a little utility I also have available. There's a quick look extension for me to tell you for a project file which Xojo version it's made with. And you may have seen my Xojo folder. It has a dozen versions because I have a lot of projects on older versions. And if I just want to make a quick change, I don't want to really go after all the deprecations or modifications or retest the app. I just want to load it with the old version of Xojo, make a change, build it, and deliver. So you can find the quick look extension on my website somewhere. That's it. So do you have any questions?
I just got a comment. I was curious how big a 1224-bit integer is. And just to give you a scope of how big that number is, you could assign a number to every atom in the universe, and you would still have an incomprehensibly large amount of integers left. That's how big that number is. Really big.
For UUID v7, is there a way to distinguish from when you see the UUID, and it could be just the UUID or UUID v7? Is there a way to distinguish if it's a newer one?
Yeah, one of the digits of the UUID by standard definition is the version number.
Okay.
So the randoms one usually have a 4 at the same spot, and the V7 has a 7 there.
Okay.
Have you got a knowledge management system to look up all the functions?
Well, I have a documentation website,
Yes.
which is based on the database I have, and there's a search button, and I hope it helps. Otherwise, all the AI tools are constantly browsing my documentation. It's more than half of my web traffic. So I think they can help you. So, thank you. Next one is David.